the age of 16, I was taken out the country, abroad, to get married to a cousin. And that marriage took place within 2 weeks. I had no say in that marriage. Everyone else was doing everything. Example, buying clothes, inviting people to that wedding. So it felt like I was a stranger, and I was, in my own wedding.
Shakilla is only one of the thousands of women that are victims of forced marriages in the UK. A British citizen living in Manchester, she was brought to Pakistan in 1996 to marry her cousin, a 24-year-old man with mental health issues who inflicted domestic violence on her. We met Shakilla to understand more about her story and the legal challenges facing victims of forced marriages in the UK. A tragedy that is considered a human rights violation, one that only became a criminal offence in the UK in 2014 with the ratification of the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act.
At the time, I really wanted to finish my education, and I told 1 or 2 teachers, this is what the family is planning. They want me to take out the country. I don't want to go. I want to focus on my education. But they did not do much to support me in that sense. They kept quiet, and when I said to them, if I come back, can I go back? Can I come back to school? And I was told, yes, you can, which I found out later on it was a lie. And I had to do whatever my ex-mother-in-law used to tell me. Waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, cleaning, cooking, doing everything a maid should be doing. But I had no connection mentally or emotionally with her son. They used the religious, verses of the Quran to say, if you're patient, God will reward you. It was like, because I'm a mother of daughters, I was told nobody will marry your daughters. I will lose control of my daughters because they need a father to control them. Nobody will marry me because I will be a divorcee. There were lots of things that were said, including your granddad's going to die of a heart attack, my dad's going to die of diabetes. Everybody was thinking about themselves. Nobody thought about me or my children, what this man was doing to us and his family.
Associate Lecturer Cristina Julios at Birkbeck University has been studying this saga for many years and believes it's an underestimated issue in the UK. She wrote a book about women forced into marriage in Britain to raise awareness of the issue.
We're looking at something over 8,000 people who may be affected by this. As I say, we don't have official figures as such, apart from the forced marriage unit, because this is a hidden problem. So in the UK, the vast majority of cases, which are more highly overrepresented, pertain to Pakistan, Bangladesh, Somalia, which is coming quite high in terms of the cases. India, about 10% are UK-based forced marriages. This tells you that it has become a self-perpetuating phenomenon, an indigenous phenomenon. That means that first, second, third generation of UK-born migrants are engaged in forcing others to marry and engage in honor-based violence. If you look globally, and we are linking this to early marriage and child marriage, you're looking at 650 million girls who have been married under the age of 18. That's 12 million girls a year, or 1 for every 5 girls worldwide. So it's a huge problem.
Nearly 5 years ago, Shakilla learned about Karma Nirvana, an award-winning British charity supporting the victims of honour-based violence and forced marriage. They've been training professionals for 25 years and helped Shakilla understand herself and move forward with her life. We met the team from Karma Nirvana in Leeds to learn about the support they give to women and what needs to be done in the UK to tackle the issue.
There's a misconception that this issue is a South Asian exclusive issue, and the reality is it is not. It affects people of lots of different communities, and we are seeing that represented on our helpline. In fact, recently we've had a growing number of calls from professionals supporting Roma children who are being taken abroad and forced into marriages. We have cases related to people who are from the Middle East, who, in fact, we've had an evangelical Christian family that we were supporting a victim of. A girl had got pregnant and her family were now forcing her into marriage. It was outside of marriage. It's been documented that there has been a forced marriage protection order taken out for a 2-year-old. That was by the forced marriage unit, and that related to 3 sisters that were due to marry 3 brothers. So in terms of the age range, it really does vary, but for us at Karma Nirvana, we tend to find that our peak time of hearing from victims tend to be those that are GCSE aged up to the early 20s, in terms of the risk of being taken abroad and forced into marriage, or indeed married in the UK.
I'm the helpline manager, the national helpline here at Karma Nirvana. We support both men and women in forced marriage and honour-based abuse. Last year we had over 13,000 contacts to the helpline. So I'm going to take you through to the helpline now and show you where all the calls come through and where the call handlers handle the call.
Hello, Karma Nirvana. Hiya. Yeah, how can I help? Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We're an organisation who support victims and survivors of honour-based abuse and forced marriage, as well as professionals. Yeah. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your situation? Okay.
Today's been really busy. We've had a number of calls to the helpline, as well as a number of emails as well. We support via both channels, so somebody can email if it's not safe for them to call, but if they can call, then they'll get through to one of the call handlers, and it has been really busy.
Despite the progress that's been made, victims still face enormous and unjust challenges in the UK. Last year, the Times newspaper published an investigation into the UK Home Office who had given visas to the husbands of forced marriage victims. Out of 88 cases of victims who had tried to block their spouse from moving to the UK, the Home Office issued visas in 42 of the cases.
This marriage was more about him coming to England and getting a British passport. Because I was 16, I did not have knowledge of the paperwork. All I remember is people telling me to sign the papers. There were a lot of things that they did that I did not do, but they were telling the authorities, it's coming from me. I really thought because he's not from England and he committed a crime, the police knew what he was doing as well, he will be sent back to his birth country. That did not happen, which really shocked me.
We were behind the Times investigation. When somebody's in that situation, they have 2 options. They can either give a public statement and say, I've been forced into a marriage, which should prevent that person from entering the country. Many victims don't want to do that because the moment they make a public statement, their family then become aware. The other option is the forced marriage unit can put questions to the person that's due to enter the country, so they would fail their interview and wouldn't arrive on that basis. The Times investigation identified that where victims had made a public statement, there were 80 odd victims that had made a public statement. Still, just under half of those applications were accepted. The Home Secretary then launched a consultation to look at whether forced marriage should become a mandatory reporting issue. So as soon as somebody becomes aware of a forced marriage, it gets reported to the police every time, rather than sat on thinking, oh, is this something that is part of a community or a culture?
For victims of forced marriage, closing this chapter of their lives is very important. But unfortunately, there are other legal challenges that still further complicate the issue.
So when I applied for the Islamic divorce, there was a mosque in my area, and I thought these people will help me because they're well known. And I rang the mosque, and the imam spoke to me in a very, very intimidating way. He said, give yourself a break and think about whether you want to divorce or not. Are you on your period? Are you hormonal? I mean, come on, who says that to a woman who's crying? And after 2 years, I got the Islamic divorce. But still, my family wouldn't accept that, because they say women are not allowed to get the divorce. But then I have to go through the English divorce. That was much, much harder. It was really stressful. I had to translate the wedding certificate into English and other documents, which obviously cost a lot of money, a lot of time. It was a lot of stressful as well, because he was coming and going in England. By then he got married and he had children, while I was still fighting for my right and my daughter's rights. And only recently, last year in November, the divorce had been granted, and I had to go through 3 solicitors to make this happen.
The other issue is the repatriation fees. So if somebody has been taken abroad and be forced to be married abroad, in order for them to come back, if they seek help from the government, from the Foreign Office, they will have to pay the cost of their repatriation. So again, you have to imagine the position that these women find themselves in. They will probably have already risked their lives to seek help from the Home Office, of the Foreign Office rather, only to be told, unless you sign an emergency loan agreement, you will not get on a plane back to the UK, and we will not repatriate you. Many of these women, of course, experience financial difficulties. They might find themselves homeless, in refuges, because they have to pay hundreds of maybe even thousands of pounds to get back to the UK. And the government has been criticised, obviously. Many charities feel, and NGOs, that they are profiting from very vulnerable victims of forced marriages and unauthorized violence. The good news is that the government has decided to do away with the repatriation fees, and therefore victims will not be asked to pay the money themselves, but rather the onus is going to be not on the victims, but on the perpetrators.
When I left him and I thought, right, we're going to have this happy life, we're going to move on, we're not going to let anybody hurt us again, I was so wrong. The trauma that we suffered came out in different ways, especially the trauma my children displayed. The 3 eldest girls, nightmares, you know, having fear of him coming back again. They've been, all of them got post-traumatic stress disorder. And the 2 of the children, the twins, have tried many times to take their own lives. There was an incident where they tried to hurt my daughter. and her dad was there but did not protected her, knowing full well what this perpetrator is capable of. And when I was saying don't take her to that house, he wasn't listening. So when I found out what had happened, I was just, right, that's it. That's it, you know, even before when they made me drop the charges, when he beat me up when I was pregnant, you know, that lots of things happened. You know, they forced me to live with him here in this country. But when this happened, I was like, no way, that is it. Once you have made a decision to get out of an environment that is causing you so much pain and trauma, you need to stick by it. Don't go back.